You say ladies first.
Judge, if you don't mind, I will pass on to the DDPP to introduce the members.
Very well, very well. It's just that I got used to your face. In the lead up to this, all of you have done a lot of work to get us to this point. So.
Thank you, my lord.
Morning.
Morning, my lord. It's Miss Rwanaba.
Yes, Ms.
From the NPA.
Yes.
On the team, we've got the deputy, Mr. Madolo.
Yes.
On my right
He's a well-known face.
Then on the left-hand side, I've got Miss Bosman.
Yes.
Next to Miss Bosman is Mr. Govender.
Yes.
Next to Mr. Govender is Mr. Coltman.
Yes.
Right behind Mr. Coltman, I've got Mr. Namba from the NPA as well as Mr. Massacre. This is the team for the NPA.
It's quite a team.
It's quite a lot, and some will not even
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
At the inquest.
No, we appreciate all the help that we can get.
Thank you.
Yes.
That is the NPA team.
Thank you very much. And then I think it will be Mr. Vani then.
As the court pleases, Your Lordship, we're here today on behalf of Neville Billing, Carl Andrew Webber, and Lindeen Page. Neville and Carl are survivors of the Highgate Massacre, and Lindeen is a family member, one of the deceased. The Lord, I'm assisted by my learned junior, Rita Richards, and instructed by the Pro Bono Department of Cliff Decker Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Vani. Is there anybody else who needs to put themselves on record? That's the full complement of lawyers. All right. I think we've got enough lawyers here to last a year. I will just make a few brief opening remarks, and then I will allow the APA, the National Prosecuting Authority, to do likewise, followed by the representatives of the families. As has already been alluded to, there is an inquest into the death of Stanley Hacking, Douglas William Gates, Royce Michael Wheeler, Dion Wayne Harris, and Derek Ron Whitefield, collectively referred to as the deceased. The deaths resulted from a tragic incident on the 1st of May 1993, when attackers launched an attack on patrons at the Highgate Hotel, locally here in East London. The attack also left several other persons seriously injured. The incident, as you can gather from the date, occurred just prior to the 1994 democratic elections in this country. It could very well have been linked to the process with regard to that were afoot in the country at the time. In summary, it appears that a gunman or gunmen armed with high velocity firearms, seemingly rifles, entered the facility in the evening, and fired randomly at patrons inside the facility, with the devastating consequences already referred to. Indeed, a massacre, as it were. An undoubtedly callous and cowardly deed that has hitherto remained unpunished. Given its national importance, the number of affected persons, the high profile of the incident in our recent political history, and the continued need to secure the normalization of the situation. The view of the National Prosecuting Authority, which is concurred in by the representatives of the families, is accordingly endorsed that a formal inquest is indicated in the High Court. Hence, we have the present proceedings, which are the first proceedings of this nature in respect of this incident. An inquest is a judicial investigation into an unnatural death where no criminal prosecution ensues. In view of the evidence which is currently available to the National Prosecuting Authority, it has formally declined to institute a prosecution. Therefore, the current proceedings, inquest proceedings, are competent. In terms of formalities, I have been requested by the National Prosecuting Authority to consider issuing an order that a joint inquest be held into the deaths of all of the deceased in terms of Section 6, capital A, 2 of the Inquest Act, 58 of 1959. And having considered the matter, I am satisfied that all the deaths are connected, having occurred during the same incident, being the attack on the Highgate Hotel in East London on the 1st of May 1993. I accordingly issue an order that there shall be a joint inquest into the deaths of the deceased. Needless to say, this has been a very traumatic experience for all of those affected by it. During the course of the next 2 weeks, which is the session that is planned, first session that is planned for this matter, the evidence of numerous witnesses, some survivors of the attack, next of kin of the deceased, and others affected by the incident will be heard. They need the space to share their experiences without unnecessary restraint and with full understanding, respect, and support. This process allows for all of this. I wish to say in anticipation that all witnesses must feel free and they are at liberty to express themselves fully and share their experiences with the tribunal. It is imperative not only for a proper investigation of the incident, but also for personal healing. I would also like to indicate, as you can see, that permission has been granted for the proceedings to be filmed. You see the media is present here. However, this will be done unintrusively and sensitively. And if any witness is uncomfortable with any aspect thereof, that must be raised with me for further attention. It is, however, necessary in order to inform the public about matters of public importance, such as this. Just in terms of the process of it, in accordance with the relevant process, the representatives of the National Prosecuting Authority will shortly commence presenting the evidence of witnesses. As I've already indicated, these are not traditional court proceedings. But it is a judicial investigation, and the process will thus be less formal than formal, normal court proceedings. As has been apparent already, the families are represented legally, and those representatives will be able to question, with my leave, any of these witnesses, and to present the evidence of witnesses of their own. At the conclusion of the evidence, all of the representatives would be afforded an opportunity to address the tribunal, and the tribunal will then consider the matter and present its findings in due course in terms of section 16 of the Inquest Act. I'm now going to proceed to allow the respective representatives to present any opening remarks that they are minded to make, whereafter the evidence would follow, presentation of the evidence would follow, which will include an inspection in loco at the venue later, in all likelihood in the course of tomorrow only. But on that note, I'm going to allow the NPA to make any opening remarks. Over to you.
Thank you, Judge.
Bosman, yes, thank you.
Judge, I've prepared a short opening address in respect of this matter. And you have so eloquently and comprehensively dealt with the matter, so please forgive me if I do repeat anything. At this stage of the opening of this inquest, I'd like to emphasize that all South Africans, young and old, know of the atrocities of apartheid. It was an era between 1948 and 1999. The policy of apartheid constituted political, social, and economic discrimination against the non-white majority in the Republic of South Africa. South African leaders of the anti-apartheid struggle fought to create a government that reflected the country's diversity, transferring a state committed to white supremacy into our beloved Rainbow Nation. In 1994, when Nelson Mandela became president, he declared, "We have triumphed in the effort to implant hope in the breasts of millions of our people. We enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall without any fear in their hearts, assured that their inalienable rights to human dignity a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world. The time for healing of wounds has come. During the period of transition, negotiations were led as far back as 1979, which culminated in the South African Constitution with the founding values of human dignity, non-racialism and non-sexism, supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law, and finally, universal adult suffrage, a national common voters' roll, regular elections, and a multi-party system of democratic government to ensure accountability, responsiveness, and openness. This can by no means be described as a peaceful transition. Gross human rights violations were committed in South Africa and at its borders that took place by both supporters and opponents of apartheid. South Africa was to progress through the stages of a revolution. In the period leading up to the 1994 elections, South Africa was engulfed in the third phase of revolution, the crisis stage, which screamed radical information. Violence was the order of the day, with sometimes random targets. Lives were lost in the most violent ways, and some revolutionaries having disappeared and others being left deceased. This gave rise to the fourth phase of the revolution, which is the recovery stage. And so the TRC was born. In the explanatory memorandum to the parliamentary bill, the mandate said that to achieve unity and morally acceptable reconciliation, it is necessary that the truth about the gross violations of human rights must be established by an official investigative unit, using fair procedures, fully and unreservedly acknowledged by the perpetrators, made known to the public together with the identity of the planners, perpetrators, and the victims. The TRC allowed for healing of a nation. Some victims were identified but never found, as in the case of Nokuthula Simelane. Other matters led to the forgiveness by aggrieved families of the murdered innocent, as the strength of Amy Beale's family after the amnesty applications by the perpetrators. The present matter, however, cannot fall into these categories. There is no resolution for the families of the deceased and the severely injured parties in the Highgate Hotel massacre on 1 May 1993. On the night in question, the unidentified, concealed, and disguised attackers opened fire on a group of innocent victims enjoying night out with friends and family. It was an indiscriminate attack, leaving 5 people deceased. That is 5 names which the judge has already read into the record. 7 individuals were maimed and permanently disabled. These include Neville Belling, Billy Balling, Megan Boucher, Doreen Rousseau, Charles Bodington, Carl Webber, and Alfred Gonshi. It seemed clear that it was a politically motivated killing leading up to the 1994 elections. Attackers were disguised and random killings took place in a local venue which was known to be frequented by white police officers. The attacks also fitted the profile of an APLA attack, but no amnesty was sought in respect of this incident, even though the individuals even though an individual had phoned the local news and given the name Carl Zimbiri, which was often the APLA profile. APLA now will continue to deny responsibility for this attack. A thorough investigation was undertaken, and the injured parties had the opportunity to provide an account to the TRC, but no perpetrators were or have been identified. What we are presently facing is an inquest. This inquest has apologize, has the the inquest allows for findings in respect of unnatural deaths. In respect of section 16.2 of the Inquest Act, the judicial officer must make with respect a number of distinct facts in issue. Firstly, the identity of the deceased. Secondly, the cause or likely death of the deceased. Third, the date of the deceased. And fourth, death brought about by any act or omission which prima facie involves or amounts to an offence on the part of any person. Section 16.3 indicates that if the court is unable to make a finding, then this must be recorded. My Lord, we have been appointed as prosecutors to assist in leading the evidence in respect of this matter, and we have, together with the families of the legal representatives, come up with a proposed draft schedule in respect of this matter. My Lords, today will be dedicated to the opening address of the legal representatives. We would further like to consider to continue with the evidence of the investigating officer, or the present investigating officer in this matter. We would also then like to proceed with a brief video indicating the scene of the incident shortly after the incident. On day 2, we would like to proceed to the Highgate Hotel. We do have a police official at the moment ensuring that the venue is safe for this visit. We then open up to the families and survivors to provide their evidence. My Lord, as we indicated in chambers, there is a strong possibility that we will be leading 2 further police witnesses on Thursday, and we will address your Lordship then. But the inquest is envisaged to proceed for 10 days, and we do believe that we will be able to complete all the evidence in those 10 days. Thank you, my Lord.
Thank you, Ms. Bosman. Yes, that is the opening for the National Property Authority. I'm going to proceed to Mr. Varney.
As the court pleases. Lord, we have prepared a written appeal address, and with you, the court would like to hand up a copy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Varney.
Thank you.
I think we have the document.
Thank you. Lord, on the night of 1st May 1993, the Highgate Hotel in East London was the scene of a ruthless attack. Several unidentified gunmen entered the hotel and opened fire on patrons, using automatic rifles to inflict maximum harm. Amid the chaos, a tear gas canister was detonated, adding to the confusion and terror. Within minutes, my Lord, 5 lives were tragically lost and 7 others sustained life-altering injuries. My Lord, this was not a random act of violence, but a calculated operation designed to cause maximum harm and terror. The families contend that this level of coordination may very well point to the involvement of sophisticated operatives, potentially linked to third force elements, during this volatile transitional period in our history. Those shot dead on the scene were Royce Michael Wheeler, Derek John Whitfield, Stanley Hacking, Dion Wayne Harris, and Douglas William Gates. Each of these individuals left behind grieving families whose lives were irreparably shattered by the massacre. The injured survivors were Neville Belling, Carl Andrew Webber, William Freddie Banning, Megan Nadine Boucher, and Kosanati Alfred Gonchi, who's now deceased, Doreen Rousseau, who's also deceased, and Charles John Boddington. The survivors suffered not only physical injuries, but also deep trauma of experiencing such senseless acts of brutality and violence. They continue to live with these emotional scars from that fateful day. Despite the attack's gravity, nobody has been held to account, and the perpetrators' identities and motives remain unknown to this day. The massacre was initially attributed to the Azanian People's Liberation Army, APLA, but there are significant inconsistencies in this narrative. The massacre occurred during a volatile period in our history, as the nation was transitioning from apartheid to democracy. This era was characterized by widespread political violence, much of it attributed to third force elements seeking to destabilize our country. The Highgate massacre must be viewed within this broader context, raising critical questions about whether it was part of a coordinated effort to sow fear and discord. Survivors and family members have fought a long, hard battle for truth and justice for more than 30 years. Their stories will be told in these inquest proceedings. Lord, this day belongs to them. During 2019, certain survivors and family members made contact with the Foundation for Human Rights, the FHR, which runs a program called the Unfinished Business of the TRC. Lord, that program supports victims and family members to seek justice and closure. The Foundation in turn approached Cliff Decker Hoffmeyer Incorporated, who agreed to take on this case pro bono. In October 2019, Cliff Decker became attorneys of record in this matter. Lord, the reopening of this inquest provides a long-awaited opportunity to address the unanswered questions surrounding the Highgate massacre, with the chance to hold those responsible accountable, provide closure to the families, and shed light on one of the darkest chapters in South Africa's history. Lord, turning to why this inquest had to be reopened. This massacre that took place on 1st of May 1993 remains an unresolved horror that epitomizes the failure of South Africa's system of justice to deliver closure for the victims of violence during apartheid and the transitional period. So this inquest really represents a long overdue step in addressing one of South Africa's unresolved tragedies. Despite the severity of the attack, which claimed 5 lives and left several others with life-altering injuries, there have been no prosecutions, and until today, my Lord, nearly 32 years later, no inquest. And my Lord, for the benefit of the public at large, I'd like to refer the court to Section 5 of the Inquest Act, Act 58 of 1959, because that section stipulates when an inquest must be held. Subsection 1 reads as follows: if criminal proceedings are not instituted in connection with the death or alleged death, the public prosecutor shall submit those statements, documents, and information submitted to him to the magistrate of the district concerned. And moving to subsection 2. If on the information submitted to him it appears to the magistrate that a death has occurred and that such death was not due to natural causes, he shall, subject to the directions of the minister, take such steps as may be necessary to ensure that an inquest as to the circumstances and cause of the death is held by a judicial officer in terms of Section 6. Lord, no criminal proceedings were instituted in the months and years that followed the massacre, so the families really ask a most legitimate and burning question. Why has it taken some 32 years to get to this day? Now, the Inquest Act doesn't stipulate a time frame for when an inquest must be held, but my Lord will be familiar with the well-known prescript in our law that legal obligations must be carried out within a reasonable time period. My Lord, a period of 32 years cannot be described in anyone's book as a reasonable time period. Indeed, it is nothing less than a grotesque and obscene delay. Such a delay sends out a terrible message to the survivors and families that they don't matter. They can wait 32 years for an inquest. Now, the question as to why it took so long to hold this inquest, we would submit, must be answered by this Honourable Court. Our clients and the wider community deserve answers. If you were to ask the survivors and families why it took more than 3 decades to establish this inquest, most of them will tell you that it was because of a toxic mix of cruel indifference and idleness on the part of the responsible authorities on the one hand, and perhaps together with a desire by powerful elites in society to close down the so-called political or sensitive cases from the past. Indeed, our clients, Neville Bailey, Carl Webber and Lindeen Page, are part of a group of 25 victims of apartheid-era crimes who just last Thursday launched a landmark case in the Pretoria High Court against the South African president, seeking an order compelling him to establish an independent and open commission of inquiry into the political interference that saw the suppression of hundreds of murder cases that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission referred to the NPA at the closure of the TRC. Lord, they also claim the payment of constitutional damages to vindicate the egregious violation of their rights to justice, equality, and human dignity over many years. The applicants in that application also include the families of the Craddock 4 and the Pepco 3. Both of those cases, my Lord, happened in this region, as well as the COSAS 4, Imam Harun, Caiaphas Nyoka, Rick Turner, Matthews Mabelani, Hussein Hafaji, Nokutula Simalani, Richard and Irene Matasi, and others. The Lord, survivors and families have waited over 3 decades for answers. They have endured systematic failures that prioritize political expediency over justice. This inquest is an important opportunity, my Lord, to correct those failures and honour the sacrifices in that particular attack. Lord, I've put the reference to the TRC report in the opening address. The TRC lists those killed and injured in the 93 attack and stated that Augustine Zukele Mbambo and Kamazama, Dumisani and Kamazama, applied for amnesty for the Highgate attack in 1993. But Lord, that simply isn't true. They didn't apply for amnesty for that attack, they applied for amnesty for the 1994 attack. So unfortunately, the TRC inadvertently contributed to the narrative that APLA was behind this attack, which had already been amplified by the then Minister of Law and Order, Mr. Ernest Creel, who issued a statement on the 27th of May 1993, just weeks after the attack, dealing with security actions taken against APLA and the PAC. Lord, in due course, we will hand up that press release as an exhibit. Minister Creel accused the PSC, I quote, of talking peace at the World Trade Center in Kempton Park, whilst unashamedly propagating and waging a racist terrorist campaign against civilians and the security forces in the rest of South Africa. And in that press statement, Minister Creel attached what he called further evidence pertaining to the PAC policy of violence and crime, and that was attached to Annexure A of his statement. Minister Creel then went on, and he said that direct evidence of APLA involvement in a wide range of crimes has been mounting steadily for a considerable period prior to the police action taken against the PAC and APLA in that particular week in May of '93. And in this regard, he listed another 49 incidents which the police attributed to actions by APLA, and that was attached as Annexure B to his press release. And the Highgate Hotel Massacre was in fact listed as one of those attacks in Annexure B. Lord, the investigation into the Highgate Hotel Massacre has been lackluster, to say the least. And this has forced the family members and the survivors to launch their own inquiries. Over the years, they've had to piece together the events themselves, often at great personal cost. My Lord, they will point to serious lapses in the investigation, such as the overlooking of leads and the mishandling of evidence. Investigative failures include the startling neglect of lifting fingerprints off the devices left behind in the attack. They complained with justification that their statements to the police and prosecutors pointing out inconsistencies in the APLA narrative were not taken seriously. So over the years, they have, for example, pointed to APLA attackers typically shooting wildly and not accurately, as occurred in Highgate. People doing the shooting in Highgate knew exactly what they were doing, and they could handle weapons well. The Highgate assailants wore balaclavas and face masks, whereas typically APLA operatives did not. Typically in APLA attacks, the operatives would hijack or steal a vehicle in order to drive to the venue they were hitting, and then to escape again. This didn't happen in this case. There's no evidence that a car was stolen or hijacked for this purpose. APLA operatives typically did not use tear gas in their attacks, as occurred in the Highgate Massacre. Then you have this odd mix of remnants found on the scene, including a locally made, at the Swartklip factory, tear gas device. The lever was discovered. And then you also found a lever from a Soviet or Eastern Bloc F-1 hand grenade left on the scene. But you have no evidence of a hand grenade detonation. So one has to ask, what's going on here? Why did they decide to leave a Soviet or Eastern Bloc made hand grenade remnant when in fact there was no hand grenade detonation? AK-47s were used in the attack, whereas APLA typically used weapons they had stolen, most commonly locally made firearms. The AK-47s used in the attack have never been linked to another crime. The APLA command never authorized this attack, while they accepted responsibility for other attacks, including attacks on soft targets like this one. And as mentioned by my learned friend from the state, nobody has applied for amnesty in this case, whereas they did apply for amnesty in other matters, including the '94 attack on the Highgate. My Lord, in due course, we will put up a schedule of APLA attacks. It took a few days for a claim allegedly on behalf of APLA to be made, whereas APLA would normally claim responsibility pretty soon or immediately after their attacks. Lord, we intend to explore all these inconsistencies in the APLA narrative in this inquest. And indeed, my Lord, we would submit that this Honourable Court has to at least consider the possibility that this attack might have been a so-called false flag operation aimed at provoking a right-wing backlash to destabilise South Africa's delicate transition to democracy, with APLA being scapegoated, potentially to divert attention from the real perpetrators and their political motivations. So, my Lord, this massacre must be considered within the broader historical context of violence during South Africa's transition. And these kinds of attacks took place during that political upheaval. There were numerous such incidents that also bore the hallmarks of third force type operations designed to spark fear and division. And my Lord, most of these cases remain unresolved to this day. Turning to pain and the anguish that the survivors and family members have been through over decades. My Lord, for them the trauma of the massacre has been compounded by decades of unanswered questions. For those who were present and were injured, they endured not only excruciating physical pain, but also the emotional burden of having to conduct their own investigations in the absence of a meaningful police follow-up. For the families, the lack of accountability has left them trapped in a cycle of grief and frustration. Lindeen Page was only 25 years old when her brother Dion Harris was murdered on that fateful evening. The lack of accountability has sharply accentuated her suffering. The families not only grieve the loss of their loved ones, but are demeaned by the absence of truth and justice, which they feel dishonours the memory of the victims. And the state's failure to prioritise this case over the years has severely eroded their faith in the justice system. Survivors like Neville and Carl, whose physical and emotional scars remain a daily reality, deserve the recognition and closure that only a fair, objective, and thorough inquiry can provide. So the reopening of this inquest is significant, not only for the victims, families, and survivors. It represents a rare and perhaps, my Lord, the last opportunity to redress the lapses of the past in relation to this case. Accordingly, the families of the victims and the survivors of the Highgate Massacre stand before this court to seek justice for one of the most devastating and unresolved tragedies in South Africa's history. My Lord, if we can just talk a bit about the victims, survivors, and family members and who they are. They all have their own unique lives with their own aspirations, and they've all been deeply impacted by this senseless attack. Royce Michael Wheeler was a 46-year-old married man at the time of the attack. He was shot and killed. Derek John Whitfield was a 42-year-old married man and a respected businessman at the time of the attack. During the shooting, he sustained a bullet wound to the chest and abdomen, which resulted in his death. My Lord, his wife, Bernice, is with us today in the gallery. I wish to recognize her presence. Stanley Hacking, who was a 65-year-old widowed father at the time of the attack, who was a regular patron at the Highgate Hotel. He sustained bullet wounds to the chest, which ruptured his heart and lungs, resulting in his death. Dion Wayne Harris, the youngest victim. He was a 26-year-old man with a bright future ahead of him. He was watching rugby on the day of the massacre. He sustained bullet wounds to his right and left lungs, which killed him. Dion would have celebrated his 27th birthday on the 13th of May, which was also the date that his sister Lindeen was due to give birth to his first niece. Douglas William Gates. He was a well-known and loved figure in East London. He was 56 years old at the time of the attack. Douglas had a deep love for animals and worked at the SPCA. He sustained a bullet wound to the abdominal wall, rupturing the blood vessels in his groin and buttocks, which killed him. We're turning to the survivors. Neville Billing was 20 years old at the time of the attack. He is a survivor of the massacre. He is permanently disabled as a result of being shot. Neville has undergone over 30 surgeries to manage the injuries inflicted during that attack. His life has been one of physical suffering and emotional trauma compounded by the lack of justice. But nonetheless, he and the other survivors have continued to fight for justice to this day. He will testify in this inquest. Carl Andrew Weber was 37 years old at the time of the attack. He is another survivor who continues to live with the emotional and physical scars of that day. He was at the ladies' bar when government opened fire. He was shot, which resulted in his left arm being amputated. Carl will also testify in these proceedings. Another survivor, William Freddie Belling, was 45 at the time. He went to the Highgate Hotel with his brother Keith Belling. They went to the public bar where they intended to play pool. Whilst there, he heard gunfire and he ended up being shot in his lower back, which resulted in very serious injuries. Megan Nadine Belcher was 22 years old at the time of the shooting. She was present with Carl Weber, Doreen Rousseau, and Douglas William Gates. While sitting at the old ladies' bar, she was shot in the right leg, which resulted in serious mental and physical injuries. In Kosanati, Alfred Gonchi was a barman at the Highgate Hotel and on duty on the night in question. He was 30 years old. And Kosanati was sitting behind the bar counter when gunmen opened fire, which resulted to a gunshot wound to his right leg. Although he survived the attack, he has since passed away. Doreen Rousseau, another survivor who has since passed away, was at the Highgate Hotel having a drink with a colleague when gunmen opened fire. Doreen was 57 at the time of the shooting and sustained injuries after being shot in the leg. And then finally, Charles John Boddington was 40 years old at the time and also sustained serious injuries in the attack. Turning to the family members, my lord. All family members of those killed and injured have suffered deeply. Lindeen Page is the sister of Dion Wayne Harris. She was 25 years old and pregnant with the first child at the time of the attack, which resulted in the untimely death of her brother. Lindeen has fought to keep the story of her brother alive and to demand accountability. Her advocacy reflects the resilience of the families who had to endure the burden of living without loved ones, losing their solace and their support. The prolonged delay in addressing the Highgate massacre has meant that some family members are not with us here today. Among those we have lost are the parents of Neville Billing, Neville Billing Sr. Neville's father passed away on the 8th of June 2016, and Zilla Billing, Neville's mother, passed away on the 24th of November 2017. The father of Lindeen Page and the late Dion Harris, Neville Henry Harris, died on the 22nd of July 2023. Lindeen's mother, Cynthia Lynette Harris, passed away on the 18th of August 2002, but I think that should be 2022. Oh no, I believe it is 2002. They went to their graves without closure. Lord, in conclusion, on 23 February 2024, after an excruciatingly long wait spanning decades, confirmation was eventually received that the inquest into the Highgate Hotel massacre would be reopened and that a judge would be assigned. This confirmation brought a sense of hope and relief. It signaled an opportunity to finally uncover some truth and hopefully hold those responsible accountable for the tragedy that changed so many lives forever. My Lord, the Highgate Massacre is not merely another event from our painful past. It is an ongoing wound that demands healing through truth and accountability. This inquest offers an important opportunity to address the systemic failures of the past, to provide a platform for the survivors and families to tell their stories, and where possible, to provide some answers. Those are our submissions.
Thank you, Mr. Barnum. Is there any idea what the whereabouts of Mr. Creel? Is he deceased?
The Minister of Law?
Yeah,
I believe he is deceased.
Deceased.
We can double check that.
Right. Thank you.
As a court, please.
Is there anything else that the NPA wants to add? I'm going to take a short adjournment. That's it.
Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the representatives for the informative and insightful openings. I'm going to take a short adjournment for 15 minutes. Also allow for these things to be switched on again. I think you're cooking a bit.
that all tools are utilized on crime scenes. I also had to attend to court cases by cases of serious nature that I was involved in as well. There again, my lord, I was involved with serious investigation. In 2018-19, I resigned, my lord, due to a heart attack that I had, and I rejoined again in 2021 April. And that is where my career started with the TRC investigations at the DPCI.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My lord, if I can just also point out, I forgot to mention at the beginning, the captain has had a couple of injuries over the past couple of weeks, and he might find it difficult to be standing for long periods. If he could have adjournments as he needs, would that be in order?
Yes, certainly, Captain. Just indicate
Oh, well, thank you, my lord.
if you need a little break.
Thank you, sir. I'll do that.
I don't know if there's something
The easiest.
there as well. So if you try to assist, you can do that as well.
My lord, if I could sit, I'll be happy. Thank you.
Yes, no,
Thank you, sir.
All right. Then you can proceed, Ms. Bosman.
Thank you, my lord. So when you joined the ECK DPCI in East London, were you immediately handed this file or any other files to deal with in respect of TRC matters?
When I joined, no, my lord, not immediately. I received this matter of the Highgate case in August 2021. It was received from our national office, and the instruction that we received is that when we get it to the office, we have to register it under a new inquiry, which I did, and thus that it's got the case number on it as Eastern Cape Provincial Inquiry 4 of 8/2021.
Right, thank you. Right, Captain. Do you know who the previous investigating officers in this matter were?
My lord, yes, there were various investigating officers. It started off with Sergeant Daryl Els, as well as Sergeant Bozer, who was supported by Sergeant Rutters, and they investigated if with the inspection of the docket when I received it until 1998, where after in 2010 the docket was then received by Captain Ben Nell at our head office at the DPCI, and he started his investigation in early 2011.
Just give me the name of that officer again, please, Captain.
Captain Ben Nell.
Ben Nell.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My lord, no disrespect if I call you sir, please. I'm just so used to saying that.
No, that's perfectly in order. Might be a bit awkward if you call me madam.
That's true. Thank you, my lord. He investigated the matter until 2021, when it was forwarded to our office in East London.
Thank you. Do you recall the date when you received the docket or the instruction?
I received the docket, if I'm correct, I received it on the 4th of August, 2021.
And what was the docket consisting of at that stage?
The docket consisted of 3 files. The first file was the original case docket that was all put together in a lever arch file. And file number 1 and file number 2 were various copies of the docket, as well as certain statements that Captain Nell had obtained during his investigation.
You say certain statements. Are you referring to witnesses in respect of this case?
Yeah, witnesses in this respect, yes.
Once you received all these documents from the docket, what did you then do to continue with your investigation in the matter?
My Lord, I went through the original docket at first, just so that one can get into it and understand it. I do bear knowledge of this incident in 1993 because I was in East London at the time. I also knew Carl Webber. Until then I knew him personally because I used to help out at my dad's butcher shop in Kids Beach, and Carl was with the SPCA, and he always used to come and collect the bones and stuff that were never used. So I knew him then already. I received the docket and I went through the docket, noticed that on many of the statements from A1 to A76 that a lot of these dockets were copies and they were also originals. Many of these statements, my Lord, weren't commissioned. Statements as A2, A3, A4, A7, A8, A9, A10, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 49 weren't commissioned.
Were they signed?
They were signed.
Signed by the
Some of them were
opponent.
signed, some of them weren't signed, sir.
Some were neither signed nor commissioned.
Yes, sir.
My Lord, if I could just refer you to the index which I prepared. It does indicate per witness, for example, if we look at number 3, Ms. Boucher, the first item there is the typed version of the statement. The second item is the handwritten version, signed and commissioned, and the date. Where it has not been commissioned, I have indicated it has not been commissioned, or it was signed but not commissioned.
Thank you, Ms. Bosman.
Thank you, my Lord. All right, and how did you go about trying to rectify the situation?
My Lord, once I perused the docket, I made a list of all the witnesses in the case docket and started going through each and every statement to see if there's any ID numbers or addresses that one could visit and try and find the witnesses. Numerous, or not numerous, let me rather put it, many of these statements had no ID numbers, and what frustrated me most is that there was a clear description or prescribed order that it should be written down in these statements. So all we had was a name, an address, and a telephone number on many of these witness statements.
Just remind me again, when did you get it?
2021
2021,
in
that's-
August.
2021, so that is
Yeah,
about
3 years ago.
yeah, about
12.
3 years.
All right, that's many years after this incident.
Yes, many, many years, my Lord. Some of the statements, my Lord, did have ID numbers on, which we were able to trace the witnesses. Many of them had passed away, which followed up with the death certificates. Many of the witnesses I couldn't trace, my Lord. There's a system that we use, and we really had guys from our PCSI assist me as well to trace these that we couldn't trace. I approached Buffalo City Municipality as well for assistance, and it just came down to absolutely, it was impossible to find them, my Lord.
Thank you, my lord. You've mentioned you belong to DPCI. Can you just explain that for the rest of the board?
Yeah. The DPCI is the Director of Priority Crime Investigation. There's various units under the DPCI. You have your organized crime, your serious organized crime investigation. We're under the CATS, which I'm part of the unit of the CATS, that is crimes against the state. Then you have the commercial crime, serious and commercial crime investigation unit. You have the PCSI. There's so many abbreviations at the moment, my lord. I can't remember all the abbreviations, but there's 4 units under, and then the serious corruption investigation under the DPCI.
Thank you. Captain Peterson, did you have the opportunity to discuss the matter with any of the previous investigating officers?
My lord, the investigating officer that started with the investigation was Daryl Else and Sergeant Bozer. Both had passed away. I then approached Captain Ben Nell. We tried to meet on a couple of occasions. It just was impossible due to work. We eventually had a telephonic discussion, and he explained to him what he had done and followed up and who he had spoken to. I also said to him that I had his statement with me, and I was going through it as we were discussing.
Captain,
yes, sir.
could you just take a little bit slower?
Sorry.
Don't mind.
Sorry, my lord. So, and his feeling was then that with the investigation, he'd come to a point where it was very difficult to say this person or that person or organization was involved. If one looks back into the case docket of the original case, I think it is on C10 of the original case, Sergeant Bozer wrote there that the incident at Highgate has similar circumstances. Those years, many years back, it used to be called modus operandi. And he pointed out to the Yellowwood Hotel attack as well as King Williamstown Golf Club attack, and the Baha Church. And that was also mentioned by Captain Nell. But as Captain Nell said, it's come to a point where he's handed it over to me that there is, it's his words were, it's literally in a dead-end street.
If I could just quickly clarify, you mentioned 3 other matters. Could you explain what you know of these matters?
My lord, the Yellowwood Hotel is a hotel where the patrons were attacked by armed assailants. Also went in and the people were busy drinking and playing pool, and they were shot at. The same happened at the King Williamstown Golf Club, where the people were sitting around the pub drinking and eating, and then people walked in and shot at them. The Baha Church, the people were busy with the church function when people walked in and held them up and shot certain people in those incidents. In all 3 of those matters, as has been mentioned, TRC did get applications from certain individuals that were involved with those matters. Your Worship, I just want to clarify that it's in those matters, not in the Highgate matter of 1993.
Thank you. So there was, in fact, an application in respect of Highgate, in respect of a later attack. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lord. That happened in 1994, where I think it's, if I'm correct, Dumisani Namazana applied for the TRC, his application, but no mention of the first attack on Cambridge Highgate.
apologize. Did you identify any possible suspects in that, sir?
No, my lord.
Was there ever anyone arrested in respect of this matter?
My lord, in the early 1994, a certain Mr. Mama was arrested, but the matter was later withdrawn against him in court due to insufficient evidence. There was no arrest after that on this matter.
Thank you. You indicated that there was, or that the previous investigating officer had indicated there was a possibility of it forming part of an ACLA attack. How did you, or did he convey to you how he had reached this opinion?
My lord, his opinion was that, again, if you look at the circumstances around the other attacks in the Eastern Cape, and we spoke about them, the Yellowwood and King Williamstown, that there were similar circumstances to that, regards to the firearms that we used, the way the people were dressed, and he also came to a point where he said it's a difficult situation to say it is Upla because we can't say it is Joe Soap of Upla, and that was his words to me.
So you're saying the others, is it all three the other incidents that you referred to?
That's correct, my lord, yes.
There were similar modus operandi.
Similar modus operandi, yes.
And were there any conclusions with regard to the identification of the attackers in those incidents?
My lord, people were found guilty in those cases, and also they applied for through the TRC, where some of them did get amnesty, but none of them were linked to the Highgate matter.
Thank you.
Did you receive any documentation regarding the actual attacks? Or was there any documentation regarding the modus operandi inside the docket when you received it?
No, my lord, there was not.
Have you received any documents from the TRC in respect of the other applications?
Yes, I did receive that, and it is in the file.
You say in a file, where would that have been filed under?
Under B-clip.
At one stage, we had a meeting with the family members and the family members' legal representatives. Did they pass on any information or leads for you in that meeting?
There was talk of that there were leads and information, and we then asked that it be emailed to your office, and until such time I never received anything with regards to what investigation is outstanding. We gave everything that we did up to then. I did receive a email from Carl Weber mentioning a name of a person that had information. We went down to Pretoria, we chatted with the guy, and he just said no, he's got nothing to do with it. In fact, I phoned him to meet with him because that was the arrangement, and he refused to meet with us after we arrived in Pretoria.
And was there no incident where a Facebook feed was referred to?
There was a Facebook feed that was received that was done by Mr. Dirk Petzer. I approached Mr. Dirk Petzer and discussed the matter with him. He indicated to me then that at the time of the Facebook chatter that he was highly intoxicated on that specific evening, and he was. It was his words were it was the drink talking, and not me. And he said, yes, I did have a chat to the people on Facebook. My lord, on the Dirk Petzer matter, I visited that man's house various times. And on numerous occasions, I found him under the influence as well. And the day that I did get him, that was the day that I was able to sit down and chat with him about the matter.
Where is his house?
He lives in Sunrise on Sea, my lord.
Is it here?
It's
Around
locally, yeah.
here? Around East London?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Could you just explain to us briefly what the or why it was deemed necessary to speak to Mr. Petzer?
Yeah. My lord, I cannot recall precisely what was said in the message, but there was a lot of talk about that there was a third force involved, if I can remember correctly. I'll have to, one has to look through that file but it was a lot of accusations, if one can put it like that, or, sort of pointing fingers at people that were involved. But when I sat down with him and we chatted about it and we went through the pictures and the WhatsApps and all that or the Facebook chat that he had, he just denied and said, look, I was very, very highly intoxicated that night and I just had a banter. There is nothing, I don't have any information, and that's what I did.
From the docket, or from the statements filed in the docket, there is in fact a Petzer listed as a witness. Is this the Petzer who you spoke to?
No, that is my lord. The person I spoke to was Dirk Petzer. That is the witness Siegfried Petzer, if I'm correct with the name. He was a witness, and he passed away a good couple of years ago.
Thank you. So Dirk, did Dirk witness the incident?
Dirk did not witness the incident.
Thank you.
Are they related?
They are brothers, my lord.
Oh, brothers?
Yes, my lord.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the late brother was involved?
The late brother was playing pool at the hotel the evening of the incident, my lord. Yeah.
So he might have had something to say?
He most probably had something to say. I can't deny or confirm that, but yes, it's a natural thing that one would talk to your brothers and family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other brothers didn't know that I had too much to drink.
The other brother said,
just talking.
Yes, my lord, and he also said it was quite a common thing for them to make these chats over WhatsApp or I can't remember I was never part of all these chats. But it's not something that just happened once off. It was a couple of times that it happened. This specific one was brought under attention by Mr. Bailing.
So who did Dirk chat to?
Dirk was chatting to, I think, to Neville Belling on the evening, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
All right. Sorry, Ms. Bosman.
Thank you, my lord. Further in that meeting, I know they referred to a book called De Lange General.
Sorry?
De Lange General.
De Lange
Die lang generaal.
Generaal.
General.
Oh, die lang generaal.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Is it the book's name? Is it the name of a book, the title?
It is, yes.
All right.
My lord. Was there any indication from the families and their legal representatives regarding this person or the author of this book? Sorry.
My lord, I have to recall that now. I think it was written by General van der Westhuizen, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not quite sure, the Lang General, or it was about him. I honestly, I think it was about him, if I'm not mistaken. No, I can't recall
Sorry,
at the Ulster something. I'm sorry, I just
My
can't
lord, if
recall.
I can just assist the witness
Yes.
here. It was about him, but the author was Elston.
Ah, that's correct, yes. Now
What's
it's
the
yes.
author? Sorry. What was what's the author's name?
Dion Elston.
Elston. Dion Elston.
Elsden, yes.
Thank you. So was there reference in some of these chats to this particular book?
No, my lord.
Or how does
No.
the book feature?
It was mentioned on this family meeting of the book that was written by Elston regarding this Lang General van der Westhuizen. The reason why that was mentioned, my lord, is that there were allegations that the General van der Westhuizen, if I'm correct, was the commander of the so-called Hammer Squad at the time. And it was alleged that the Hammer Squad was in fact involved with the shooting of that evening.
Is this a local policeman?
He was,
Van der Westhuizen?
no, he wasn't a policeman, he was a SANDF member,
Oh,
general, and was placed, if I can remember correctly, in PE, my lord. Oh, Quebeca.
all right. So was this at the meeting with the family?
This was,
When this was mentioned?
yes, my lord.
Oh, I understand you now.
Thank you.
Okay.
And were you able to meet with Mr. Elston?
My lord, yes, I met with Mr. Elston in Stellenbosch. If I could just go through my notes here. I think it was in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, when I met with Mr. Elston. We had a long discussion regarding the Hammer Squad. We also had a long discussion regarding the allegations that there was a third force involved. And that according to Daryl Elts, who was now a private investigator, which they worked closely together.
So we work closely with author.
Alan Elston, yes.
All right.
Yeah, they were close because he's also a private investigator.
The author?
The author, yes. And we had a lengthy meeting in Stellenbosch Police Station. I obtained his statement regarding that as well. But even in that statement, my lord, it was all hearsay. There was no evidence that I could follow up in that discussion, that I could pinpoint to a person or an organization, whether the third force or the commandos, during that discussion I had with him.
Have you had an opportunity to look at this book?
No, my lord, I never read the book.
It's somebody just tell you about what is alleged in the book?
No, it was, if I can remember correctly, it was just mentioned that there were third forces involved and operatives involved, but and on that I went and saw Ellen Elston, but I didn't read the book, my lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it not a possible recommendation by the family members that the author, knowing so much about the apartheid era, might have information regarding this matter?
Yes, it was. They did request that we just chat to him, which I did, my lord.
All right. So it was a kind of a lead that was given to you by the family.
Family. Yes, my lord.
You made mention of the Hammer Squad. Could you briefly give us an explanation what you're referring to?
Yeah. My lord, there was an allegation from the various people that there was a Hammer Squad going around and acting on behalf of the government and killing people involved in certain matters. I know, and I can't talk on behalf of Captain Ben Nell, but I know that Captain Ben Nell also followed that up, and so did I. I spoke to Mr. van der Merwe, who was at the commandos in Port Elizabeth. My lord, I want to just clarify that there was two commandos. There was one for the East London area, and there was one for the Eastern Province area. And the Hammer Squad was known in the Port Elizabeth area.
You say there were two commandos. One was for the East London area.
East London.
And the other one?
For Port Elizabeth. For PE area, yes.
Okay. And you added that
the Hammer Squad was the Hammer Squad was known for the group in Port Elizabeth. On speaking to Mr. van der Merwe, he was the commander of the commandos. I think it's from 1978 to 1998, if I can remember correctly. And on
before this incident that we're looking at.
It's during the incident.
Was he the commander?
He was the commander.
Sorry, then just give me the dates again. There?
From 1978 to 1998.
Oh, 98.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes, I've got it. Thank you.
Talking to him and inquiring him about it, we had a lengthy discussion about that. He didn't deny that they were working in the PE area, but he did deny that they were called the Hammer Squad. He alleged that there was another group in PE called the Hammer Squad. But he never gave us any details regarding that. My lord, in his worship, he stated that they were simply a backup for the army and for the police in the Eastern Province area, which is from PE, Kirkwood, Grahamstown, the broader area of the outskirts of and around Port Elizabeth.
Is this now the commandos?
The PE commandos, yes.
What? Just for my own edification, what? Commandos is
That's the reserve.
It's staffed by civilians.
Yes, that's the reserve.
Like reserve, like police reservists.
That's right, sir. Yes.
Just for the defence force.
Yeah, if you recall, my lord, those years, if you came out of the army, you had to be part of the reserve commandos for quite a number of years. Obviously, he was part of them for quite some time.
Is that now after you had received your training or what?
Yes,
Then
yes.
you must be attached to the commander.
The commanders of the region where you are living and working. Yes, my lord. And also in those years, my lord, normally the South African Defence Force then, between once or twice, once a year or once every second year, the ex-SANDF members that did work for them were called up for reserve work for about a month and a half.
So if you're now done the basic training or whatever it's called at the Defence Force.
Yes.
Now you finished the year or two, whatever it took.
Yes.
Now you go back to your normal life.
Yes, my lord.
You're a teacher, for example.
Yes.
You go back to school, you teach. But then they can call you back
Yes.
to render duties for the Defence Force within the commando structure.
That's correct, my lord. That's the way I understand it, my lord. My lord, I wonder if I could ask if we could just break for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, please.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
We'll take a brief adjournment. You let me know when you're ready.
Thank you, my lord. Okay, did you interview any people regarding the Hammer Squad in PE area?
I did interview Mr. van der Merwe, and I know that Mr. Stubich was interviewed by Captain Ben Nell. I can't recall interviewing anybody else at this stage. It's possible.
Are you aware of a witness, Peter Hall?
Peter Hall. I did not interview Peter Hall, but there is a statement from Peter Hall in the docket
Yes.
from his lawyer. Peter Hall has passed away many years ago.
And did he, or are you aware if he ever met with any private investigators?
Not as far as I know.
All right. There was another indication at meeting with families that Mr. Weber knew of an individual who was possibly residing in Grahamstown who could assist.
That's correct, my lord. Mr. Weber did mention. I contacted Mr. Weber to get the address to visit the person, and he indicated to me that he would love to join me to go and see him because this witness would be more would speak to me freely if he was present and he'd safe to chat to him. The first appointment that we had, I had to cancel due to work commitments, and then thereafter we had to meet up and go and see the witness, but then Mr. Weber wasn't available, and I then asked Mr. Weber to forward me the address, and we did have a chat, but nothing came from that thereafter.
We know from the timeline that it did not have much to do with the ballistics in respect of this matter, but apparently there was a projectile which was removed from one of the victims, Mr. Belling. Can you give me any information regarding that?
My lord, on my first visit with Mr. Belling and Mr. Weber at Mr. Belling's house, he indicated to me that in an operation later after 2000, I think 2010, I could be incorrect with the date, a projectile was removed from his hip, which caused major discomfort for him. and eventually the doctor removed it, the surgeon removed it. In that meeting, he showed me that the projectile was still in his possession.
Did you ask for the projectile?
Yes, he also mentioned to me at the time that he did indicate to Captain Benell that he had the projectile, but it was never taken by him. I then requested if I could please have it, to take it to ballistics to do the necessary testing, ballistic testing.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. Did you say that Daryl Ellis had said it was not necessary, or?
No, that Benell
No.
didn't take it. He never said it was necessary. He never took it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I then obtained the projectile from him, and later on took it through to PE office, our ballistical unit, where the relevant checks were done, my lord. I just want to state for the court, my lord, that during that time, because, and this is going to be a lengthy explanation, my lord, is that in 1993 we had a MR system, or a CR system in English, which is a crime register. Now, in those years, your crime register was a thick register wherein all your cases reported were written in. Late after that, I'm not sure if it was in 1995 or 1996, they brought in a system in the South African Police Service which is called the CAS system. That's all cases that are reported, gets reported on the CAS system, which is now digitally, it's on the computer. There was a period in time, I think there was about a year that we had, that all the cases that were registered on MR this then automatically gives the case number a new case number, but still under that year and that month. This was never done on this specific case, Cambridge CR 16/5/1993.
Was this which?
1993.
So if you transfer from the CR system to the CAS system, the first digits would be different.
The first digits will be different, but your month and year would still be the same.
The same.
Yes, my lord.
So in this case, the 16 would change to a 20.
Yes,
Or
yes. This was never done. Coming back to the lab where the projectile was handed in. On the application where I request the ballistic testing to be done, I mentioned Cambridge CR 16/5/1993, as well as the inquiry number on which I registered the case when I received it. Eastern Cape Provincial Inquiry 4/8/2021. The ballistic unit had shifts working at that time because it was in the middle of COVID, and they had interns working for them at the time. One of the interns assisted me, received the projectile, but booked it in on their system as Cambridge 4/8 2021. A couple of weeks later, when I inquired about the ballistic report, my lord, the projectile was reported to me as missing.
Did you inform the families of this?
I did inform Mr. Belling about it on the email, saying that this is the situation, but I'm busy following up on that to find out what's going on. Mr. Belling made it very clear that he wasn't happy about that, and why suddenly is it gone now? This is very suspicious. It's again something that's missing, which according to him had previously happened as well. I visited the ballistic unit, spoke to then Colonel van der Merwe, showed him my receipt where it was booked in, and they urgently started looking for this evidence bag. It wasn't long after that, my lord, they did find it, still sealed in the same bag. I've got a report to that as well. And he reported to me that they've recovered it, and they then did the ballistic testing on it. And on the testing, they could only tell us what caliber it was, but they couldn't do any further check on it because of the corrosion of the projectile.
Were they able to tell you what had caused the corrosion?
According to Colonel van der Merwe and the person that did the corrosion was caused due to being in not sealed properly. It's been lying in a plastic bag and it rusted. There was rust on that, which influenced the marking and stuff on that, which they couldn't remove it in such a way that it wouldn't cause further damage. And that's why they couldn't pinpoint it to a specific firearm as what my request was.
And the fact that it was in the body for such a long time, did that play any part?
He did mention that it could have played a part. And he wouldn't say that it didn't, but he said it could have played a part, just like it being in the plastic bag for such a long time as too, which was never taken from Mr. Belling.
Thank you.
My lord, that was also finalised. As we speak, my lord, the projectile is being transported from PE to here, as requested by Advocate Bosman. My lord, during the discussion at the time with Mr. Belling and Mr. Weber, when the bullet was mentioned, they also mentioned that the possibility of the AWB, it's abbreviation for Afrikaner Weerstandsbeweging, a far-right group of South Africa in those years that was determined to create chaos in South Africa. They asked the question if it could possibly be their involvement.
Did they give you any reason for this suspicion?
The only reason that was given is that at the time, on this evening of the attack, there was an AWB meeting in the Orange Grove Hotel on the Greenfield side of East London, which is on the opposite side of the river as the crow would fly towards the sea from Highgate. My lord, I investigated that as well. I eventually got hold of Mr. Rouge, R-O-U-G-E, who was then living in the Ventersdorp area. And he was now the new leader of the AWB, as he said. I made an arrangement to meet him.
Could you just give us a brief
Yes.
estimate of what time or year you're discussing now meeting with this individual? Was it in 2020?
2022.
Thank you.
It was on the same trip that I was going to see this guy that phoned Mr. Webber regarding information in Victoria. Some, if I can remember, I can't remember the name, but it was, I think he was some Ascari or something like that. And as we turned onto the road to go and see Mr. Rouge, he contacted me and said that he is no longer willing to meet with me. And that if I needed any information, I should contact their legal representatives. I asked him to forward me all the details of his representative. Continuously, till today, I haven't received anything from Mr. Rouge. He also indicated to me on that phone call that day that the AWP wasn't involved in any shooting in that area. He also, my lord, couldn't confirm whether the AWB did have a meeting that night in Greenfield's Orange Grove Hotel. But from my investigation, my lord, it was very clear that there was definitely a meeting that night in Orange Grove.
Can I just ask you, you have a very strong reason for believing that there was in fact a meeting at Orange Grove that night by the AWB. Could you give me, sorry, could you give the court any reason why or how your investigation led to the certainty that you have?
My lord, if one, we tried to talk to a guy, Donizana Namazana, and he refused to talk to us. To me specifically, his words were that he doesn't speak to a white man. But if one takes the investigation that and the route that I followed to see and to pick up all the little things that were spoken about and everything, there was a talk. And if I say talk, my lord, it's all hearsay that I'm talking about. There was talk that the Orange Hotel had to be attacked that night. And if you look at the photos of the hotel, of Highgate Hotel, it was a light orange that it was painted. At the same time, we had the Orange Grove Hotel in Greenfields.
What color was that hotel?
I think it was like a beigey color, if I can remember correctly. I lived past that hotel, so I always used to drive past it. So yeah, and my lord, the talk was that there was the instruction to attack the Orange Hotel. And as I said to the state advocates, to me as though there was planning was more for the hotel where the AWP was having their meeting, that should have been attacked and not the Highgate. But that is all the talk and the stuff that we found with our investigation.
You found no definitive proof there?
No definitive proof of that at all. It's just something that sort of been boiling in my mind and thoughts that is it not possible why this actually happened and that the wrong place was attacked. But it's just picking up on the bits and pieces of the investigation.
And then you said you spoke to Mr. Dumisani Namazana. Why? How is he involved in this matter?
Dumisani Namazana was also arrested for one of the previous attacks. He was also involved in the Dagama attack. He was later arrested and, if I'm correct, he was sentenced on that. I wanted to speak to him to see if somehow we could chat and get some information out of him, because he was an APLA member and he was acting on behalf of APLA at the time, according to he wasn't acting on behalf of APLA. In his TRC, he said that they'd actually broken away from APLA because they weren't happy with the way APLA was approaching this whole change in South Africa. And I was under the impression, and I thought that if we could sit down and talk to him, that we could get clarity on whether APLA was in fact involved or not. And he just blatantly refused. Although I must say again, Captain Ben, now early, I think in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong with the date, my lord, was able to sit down with him, and he also then refused to give any information.
Do you know if he is still alive?
According to my understanding, he is still alive and he is currently in Hundansani prison as we speak.
Did he apply for amnesty in respect of Highgate?
Yes, he did, but not for the first attack of 1993. Only for the 1994, where the grenade was shot, which didn't explode.
Okay, thank you. There was also, you indicated there was some information regarding Vlakplaas in respect of this incident.
My lord, the information that we received from the victims was that there was a farm called Vlakplaas in the East London area, which wasn't, it's not situated very far from the Highgate Hotel.
Sorry, is that an allegation, or is that in fact that the farm is not far from the hotel?
No, the farm is not far from the hotel.
And is it known as Vlakplaas?
No, it's not. It was just the locals calling it Vlakplaas, but it wasn't known as Vlakplaas. But it was used by the then security forces, where the Askaris would stay, and that's where their accommodation was and everything. And that's where they would work from, pick them up and go out and do the investigation. It was from that farm, yes.
Did you follow up on that?
I did follow up on that, my lord. There is a farm like that, but it hasn't been utilised for many years, and it's in a bad state of ruins as we speak.
Were you able to trace any owner of the farm?
I wasn't able to trace the owner of the farm. My understanding that the owner hired it out to the police then, and it was later acquired by the government, and it's still there today. It's not being utilised.
Okay. And I noted, sorry, that you had previously indicated that C10 in the docket would advise regarding certain items. C10, can you just explain what that means?
Sorry, are you getting on to another point now?
Yes, sir.
I think it's appropriate to take the luncheon adjournment and reconvene at 2:15.
All right. So, Captain Peterson, just before we took an adjournment, I inquired from you what you meant when you referred to C10 in the docket.
My Lord, C10 is the investigation diary, which is there to assist the investigating officer. Everything that is found, seen, or people we spoke to, whatever relating the case, is to be written down on the investigation diary, and it then forms part of the C clip, which is why it's called C10, which is the 10th page of C clip.
Thank you. You indicated in this matter that Mr. Mama was arrested. Is that correct?
That's correct, my Lord.
Was there any evidence at that stage to detain him?
My Lord, there was 3 witnesses who identified him on a photo ID parade, on which he was later arrested and detained. But as I've mentioned, that not long after that, the matter was withdrawn against him for insufficient evidence.
Is there any evidence in the docket as it stands to proceed against Mr. Mama?
None, my Lord. The hair samples were taken from Mr. Mama, as well as blood samples for DNA, and that was all tested, my Lord, and nothing came back positive. There was a linkage to a blood group, which he was not part of.
During your investigations in this matter, you found a number of witnesses have been deceased. Can I just confirm the names with you? These are witnesses that have passed away since the initial incident. Sorry, please bear with me. Okay. All right, apologies for that. Captain Swartz.
He's deceased.
Walter Jamieson.
He's deceased.
Nettie Jamieson.
She's deceased.
Maxwell McKay.
He's deceased.
Patricia Vogel.
She's deceased.
Sergeant Zed Petzer.
He's deceased.
Alfred Gonchi.
Deceased.
Merlin Baitis.
Deceased.
Doreen Rousseau.
She's deceased.
John Holloway.
Deceased.
Charles Clarkson.
Deceased.
Lieutenant Colonel DeLange.
Deceased.
And Sergeant Daryl Els.
Deceased.
Thank you. My Lord, I'd like to take the opportunity of handing out the photographs which were taken of the scene of the incident. The photographer himself will be present on Thursday to testify. However, we just thought that it would be prudent of us to let the investigating officer confirm that these photos are in fact from the scene of the incident. Thank you. If you could just have a look at the photographs. I'm not going to refer to certain points or anything at this stage, but is this, in your knowledge, the Highgate Hotel?
That's correct, my lord.
And this is the venue that we will be able to be seeing tomorrow morning?
That's correct, my lord.
Have there been any alterations in the building since these photographs were taken?
My lord, there has been some minor alterations where doors were changed, walls were built. There's a different, the entrances are still the same, but the way to the specific places have changed a little bit. There's also a wall that was removed between the one bar where the people were playing pool at the event that night.
Thank you. I just have a minute. If I could just confirm one other thing, the color you've indicated it was orange. Is it the same color today?
No, it's not the same colour today. You'll see that the orange is on the outer parts of the top of the building and around the windows and things like that. That is the orange that I was referring to in my previous statement.
And that was how it was at the time of the incident?
That's how it was at the time of the incident, yes.
So have they painted it since
It has been
then?
painted various
All
times after that, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my lord. Any further questions?
Mr. Mahoney, any questions?
As the court pleases. Captain Peterson, should you feel the need to take a break, again, just say so. We'll stand down with the leave of the court. Lord, we can just pause for a moment. I understand that the TV cameras want to put their mics over here.
Yeah. If they're at liberty to do that, indicate when they're ready.
That's right. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So, Captain Peterson, we've got quite a bit to canvass with you. The complication we have is that we were given a bundle of documents this morning. There are quite a few statements and documents in that bundle, and we've spent lunchtime going through them, but we haven't managed to get through everything. So, my lord, there is a possibility that we might have to beg leave to ask Captain Peterson to come back. If there's anything else we discover in the bundle we got this morning.
Very well. We'll deal with it.
As the court pleases. Now, Captain Peterson, you came onto this case fairly late in the day, only taking over in August of 2021. But as you mentioned in your evidence in chief, you had to get to grips with what was in the docket. And you mentioned in the evidence in chief that you went through statements. You discovered that some statements were not commissioned, some were signed, some were unsigned. Could you, at a high level, give a description of what you thought about the earlier investigation that had taken place? Starting from the day in question and then leading all the way up to you. Were you satisfied with the quality of the investigation that you had to take over?
My Lord, I wasn't satisfied with what I saw in the document with regards to the statements and the way they were left. One would think that it would have been done correctly and properly because of the seriousness of the incident at that time.
Was there anything else that caused a concern for you, or perhaps that you might have done differently had you been investigating some years earlier?
My Lord, I think that if one looks at the scene on the photos, and I know that not everybody has that, it could be, it can be a difficult task to give my input at this stage to say whether they did things wrong or right. I think that there are certain things that could be dealt with a little bit differently. In hindsight, it's easy to say that. I wasn't there that evening. But yes, I think there's a couple of things that the investigating officer could have done a little bit more, gone into a little bit more depth on the crime scene itself. But again, that's just my opinion.
Okay. We will probably have to return to the crime scene as well as other possible shortcomings a little later, if that's okay. If we go back in history, the first investigating officer, Warrant Officer Bosser, and that's spelled B-O-S-S-R, as I understand it. It looks like he was in charge of the crime scene investigation because it seems from the investigation diary that he was only investigating from the 1st of May to the 2nd of May 1993. And my Lord, for your reference, that's C1 to C13 of the investigation diary.
Thank you.
Now, you've mentioned that you would have done a few things differently on the crime scene, and as I said, we will return to that. I'm correct in saying that Warrant Officer Bosser is deceased.
That's correct, my Lord.
So you never had an opportunity to speak to him?
No, not with part of this investigation, not at all. He passed away quite some time ago.
Okay. Well, although you didn't know him and you had spoken to him on other matters?
Yes, I knew him. Before that, he was part of serious violent crime as well. While in Buffalo Flats in Kids Beach, I dealt with him quite often with serious matters, yeah. But I did know him on the work level.
Right. And then it was Captain Schwartz who took over the investigation, and he held the docket from 3rd May 1993 to 12th May 1993. And my Lord, the reference in the investigation diary is C13 to C43. Am I correct in saying that Captain Schwartz is also deceased?
That's correct, my Lord.
And did you have any opportunity to talk to him before he passed away?
Never met him before.
And then the next investigating officer was one Sergeant Darrell Else. He held the docket from 13 May 1994 all the way through to 5th of December 1998. The investigation diary references are C43 all the way to C153. Yeah. So Sergeant Darrell Else, he was involved for, it looks like 4.5 years, and was investigating at a time when one would have hoped that breakthroughs would have been made. Darrell Else is also deceased. Were you able to
talk to him before he passed on?
No, my lord, I did not, but he is deceased. I knew Daryl Else well. He was with SVC as well, work-related matters. And I also knew that he had left the Scorpions because in 2004 he came in and supported a family where we did the investigation in the murder area of Buffalo Flats. And so I knew him in his capacity as a police officer. I also knew him in the capacity as a private detective, if I can put it like that to the court.
And in your view, was he a solid, competent investigator?
My lord, I wouldn't be able to answer you on that. I didn't know him as an investigating officer, but work-wise with me, what I needed, what I had to do, there was always, he was able to give me the relevant guidance with regard to that. When it came to the private sector side, it was completely different. He was a private detective. He was interfering in the cases that I had, and we had to be quite strict on where we draw the line with regards to sharing information at that time, because at that time there was a clear instruction from our provincial office that no private investigator should get involved with any matter. I simply courtesy walking with him because of the investigation that he was busy with the family.
So you're aware that after he left the force as a private investigator, he continued to investigate the Highgate case?
No, my lord, I was not aware of that.
Well, we're going to return to his role in due course. But let's just proceed. It does seem that while the docket was with Daryl Else, it was held in abeyance. I don't have the exact dates, but during the Truth Commission hearings, it looks like it was held in abeyance from around May 1997, presumably through to the end of 1998. Were you aware of that?
I'm not aware of where it was held, but I am aware of that it was at the TRC, because the entry in the investigation diary, the last couple of entries were docket at TRC. And that is noted in the investigation diary. That's as much as I know of that the docket was there, according to my understanding of that it's written in the investigation diary.
And if the docket was at the TRC, presumably that meant it was being left with perhaps a Truth Commission team to look at, and probably meant that the investigating officer was no longer dealing with it, at least during that time.
My lord, Mr. Vani, sorry, Advocate Vani, you were part of the TRC. I'm sure you'll be able to answer that question too. I don't know. I presume they had their own investigators there. That's the way I understood it. I could be wrong. Help me if I'm correct. So clearly it wasn't in the hands of Daryl Else at that time. It was with the investigating officers of the TRC. That's the way I understood it. But I'm open to correction.
Right. You are correct that I had a relationship with the TRC, although I was actually never employed by them. I won't go into the nature of the relationship now, it's not relevant. But they did have an investigation team, and they were looking into a large number of cases. Like you, I'm also making the assumption that if the docket was with the TRC, then it would have been difficult for the investigating officer to deal with the matter without the docket in hand. Then it seems that Captain Nell came on board, and prior to getting the bundle this morning, we had to rely on the investigation diary, which suggested that he came on board on the 7th of August 2014. And my lord, the reference in the investigation diary is C154. However, after inspecting the bundle we received this morning, it does appear that he came on board a lot earlier.
Yes.
Because in the bundle we got this morning, the first statement, which happens to be your Neville billing, that was taken on the 16th of November 2010. So it does seem that Captain Benjamin Nell started work at least during 2010. Do you know when he started work on this case?
My lord, my understanding is that he started in August 2010 on this matter. That's when he received the docket. And if I can remember correctly, I'm not sure if it's in his statement. I think he received it from Advocate McAdams then. I could be incorrect, but I remember that was the discussion when I spoke to him on the telephone. That he started in 2010. It also I think it's stipulated in his statement he started 2010 in August when he received that matter. The reason why I'm saying that is that the inquiry number for that specific case he was investigating was for August 2010. So my assumption is that he received it then and then registered the inquiry, just like I had to do when I received it.
Right. I mean, you refer to Advocate McAdam, would that be Advocate Christopher McAdam, who was at the Priority Crimes Litigation Unit of the NPA in Pretoria?
That's correct, my lord.
Because before we got the bundle this morning, our private investigator, Brigadier Mariam, he studied the investigation diary and he mentioned there was this big hole in the investigation diary, essentially between 2014 and 2021. So we make the assumption, but correct me if I'm wrong, that Captain Nell had a separate investigation diary he was writing into, and not the investigation diary that has been provided to us under CR 1608 of 95.
I'm not sure. I never saw that CR or have any copy of that CR, so my lord, I can't answer on that.
Yeah, it's CR, Cambridge CR 16-05-93.
That is the original case docket with the two files that I received from him. And everything should be in those files as such. Nothing, when I started my investigation, I started off on a separate file, not touching that after I went through it, so that whatever I get, I send it through separately to the DPPs.
So we have asked for Captain Nell to appear before this inquest, so it might be a bit unfair for me to put the question to you, and if he does appear, obviously we will be asking him. His investigations is quite substantial. So we would also like to see his investigation diary, if that's available. And my lord, we are making that request to our learned friends at the NPA and the DPCI, if that could be made available and put up as part of the record.
Noted, thank you, sir.
As the court pleases. Captain, thanks for that bird's eye view of the investigation officers. I think it does help the court get a sense of who was involved and at what times. If we can now turn to looking at some of the substantive issues. And the one concern we have is the question of fingerprints. And at C6 of the diary, there is a note and it's in Afrikaans. It's Afrikaans, but I'm going to, I've had my Afrikaans Junior translated, but I invite my learned colleagues from the state to check my Junior's translation if there's a view that maybe she got it wrong. My lord, it's at C6 in the diary itself, and I'll be reading from the entry at 2nd of May 1993 at 7 a.m. Captain, I don't, do you have a copy of the investigation diary?
No, I don't have
And my lord, we're just giving the captain a copy of the investigation diary. Captain, if I can draw your attention to page C6. So it reads as follows, and again, this has been translated into English, and Captain, if you think we get it wrong, my other learned friends, please interject. Scene visited again. Lieutenant Stassen, Sergeant Nordier, in brackets RST, Duplessis went to the scene to take fingerprints. It is a public place, but fingerprints were lifted for possible suspects. And perhaps if we can just pause there. So certainly it's a good thing that fingerprints were taken, but we're at a loss to, we haven't discovered where we can find a record of those fingerprints. We don't know what fingerprints were lifted, and whether a report was compiled. Do you perhaps know?
My lord, reading the investigation diary, reading through the docket as well, there is no evidence of any fingerprints lifted on the scene. If it was, there should have been some record in the docket regarding that, and there isn't. So no, I never found any fingerprints as mentioned here in the case docket. Whether it was done, I don't know. If I look at this, the word maar, I'm not a Afrikaans or English teacher, but if a person writes there, maar vingerafdrukke is gelig, but fingerprints were lifted, you normally would write there, but fingerprints were never lifted. Vingerafdrukke is nie gelig vir moontlike verdagtes. If I had to look at that and read it and understand it and not seeing that, I would assume that is what they were saying, but I can't because there is no evidence to that fact. Fingerprints, as far as I'm concerned, weren't lifted from the scene. There was nothing reported as such.
So what did it say, maar what?
It says, maar vingerafdrukke is gelig vir moontlike verdagtes. Is gelig.
But fingerprints were lifted.
No, nothing was lifted.
And that's what the note says.
That's what the note says, yes.
But you didn't find any record of that. If there were fingerprints lifted,
Yes.
there's no record there of in the document that you came across.
Nothing, my lord.
All right.
Nothing.
Although the note suggests that Fingerprints were lifted.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
And
There
what
was
does the
no-
other thing say about the suspects?
It says, but fingerprints were lifted for possible suspects.
Or possible suspects?
Yes. But there was nothing on record. I also, my lord, I also followed this up with the LCRC office. And I eventually received a letter from the commander stating they can't find anything. Due to when they were at the previous office in Oxford Street, there was early 2000, we had a big rainstorm here, and their records was flooded. And they referred back to that it could possibly be that's why they couldn't find it. They also moved from there to Frank Park, my lord, and clearly, I can't point fingers, but something, it just wasn't put away or filed, or the files were damaged to such an extent that they couldn't file it. It's just unclear at this stage.
So Captain, we can confirm, when Brigadier Marion testifies, he also said that he's been through the docket with a fine-tooth comb and he can see no record or report of any fingerprints. Given that the investigation diary at least gives the impression that fingerprints were lifted, but there's no evidence of any fingerprints in the docket itself, what alarm bells ring for you? What concerns do you have about this discrepancy?
My lord, my concerns is precisely where we are now. We're questioning what actually in fact had happened. Had it been done, why wasn't it recorded in the SAP 5, the investigation diary? Why wasn't anything put in the docket to indicate as such? Because we've got photos, we've got a crime scene drawn up, but we don't have fingerprints, but yet it says that. So it's a concern that it wasn't done, and if it was done, why wasn't it mentioned? And my question is, why did the commander at the time during the inspections on this dock not query that? That's another thing that I wanted, I'd like to know why. Because that's part and parcel of looking at cases like that. That's what I know, and that's my concern.
So are you saying, Captain, that if you were now doing that, and you had made that entry in the investigation diary, and your commanders, when he or she reviews the matter, then queried with you, and say, but Captain, it seems that you have looked at some fingerprints, just directly to where the report inspector that is. And you say that, neither that has happened.
My
There's no
lord,
query from the commander to say what happened here.
from the investigation diary, there's no such query regarding the fingerprints. And it's an important part of your investigation, specifically with your tool as a commander. When you inspect, you've got to tick out all the boxes to make sure it's done. This is one of those that should not have been neglected, as far as I'm concerned.
And indeed, Captain, this was not just, a common occurrence. This was a massacre of 5 individuals in a very public place. It could be even described as one of the most serious crimes ever committed in East London. So at a forensic level, having fingerprints, one would think is the starting point. Because if one can make a match, then that's forensically the breakthrough that an investigator would be looking for. So we are all the more astonished that there's no whisper of fingerprints anywhere in the docket aside from this reference in the investigation diary. So would you agree with me that this is, at best, a monumental blunder on the part of the police not to lift prints, or at worst, something suspicious is going on.
My lord, I would say it's a terrible blunder by the police. To say that there's something suspicious behind it,
Yes.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. I just think that if you look at the crime scene, if you have to put yourself there, it's possible that with all the things happening that they didn't take fingerprints. I'm not going to make up an excuse for anybody. It should have been done. For me to testify and say it's suspicious, I can't do that.
But it was amongst the most elementary investigative steps that ought to be taken. I think even the most junior investigating officer would be aware of that. And certainly in the 1990s, that technology was more than available, it was routinely used.
My lord, I agree with what Edward Varney said, but again I'm saying, I find it very difficult to say it's suspicious. It's a negligent, it's a terrible mistake made by forensics, as far as I'm concerned. And I understand the victims, after all these years of what's happened, that they suspect that something's going on behind the scene. But I can't think like that at the moment because I don't see it. I see it as a blunder by our guys not doing their job properly.
Right. Yeah, two more things out. You know, if it was a blunder because you really had to be an astute, a smart investigating officer, but to be on the scene of a mass murder in which 5 innocent people were gunned down and several others maimed, I put it to you that this was more than just a mistake. It's not something you forget to do. Fingerprinting has been part and parcel of South African police work for decades, long before 1993. Captain, what is the possibility that in fact fingerprints were taken, as suggested in the investigation diary, but then somehow ended up going missing thereafter?
My lord, again, it's possible. It's possible, we don't know.
We're going to be calling an explosives and ammunition expert, Mr. Shalmo Deer. And when we consulted with him, it was actually the first thing he asked. He said, well, because we showed him pictures of the F1 grenade lever as well as the tear gas canister lever. First question, before he even looked at anything, where are the prints? And he said, because when people in the heat of the moment are pulling levers, they're often perspiring and leaving prints. So it seemed to Nordia, this is the evidence he'll give. We're calling him in the second week, my lord. But he's going to be saying that that's what he would have expected to have happened as a matter of course. And that there was at least a reasonable possibility of lifting prints off those 2 levers. You would agree with him?
My lord, yes, I would agree with it.
The issue is, Captain, according to that entry there, fingerprints were lifted.
Yes.
Yes,
my lord.
and they just disappeared.
My lord,
It must be.
it must.
But we don't have it.
We don't have it. And it says here that it was taken, but there's no reference, there's no fingerprint reference. If I could get the front of the case docket, the original case docket, because, sorry, my lord, just want to get that. First page of the docket. Is this one? This is the cover and front cover. My lord, the reason why I'm looking for the front cover of that case docket is that on the front cover you have a place specific where you have to write down the fingerprint number. And from what I can remember, that it wasn't written on the front of that cover. As far as I can remember, if I can remember correctly, again it's for correction, but I never found any fingerprint number because it's on that number that I then acquire from LCRC to look for the file that was missing. But I had to inquire from them on the file number of the photos of the crime scene and the post-mortems.
So you will normally use that 11th entry on the first page.
That's correct, my lord. Because it should have been written on the front page. There's also a place within the investigation diary that it should have been written, which it wasn't done. Yeah.
So the first page order disappeared.
I thought I had a copy of it in the docket here. I know we had the back page, my lord, but so many copies were made.
Lord, I wonder if we could proceed, and if that copy is found, then we can pause and deal with it.
No. Yes. We'll see what else we can do with.
Yes. So, Captain, I want to put to you another extract from the investigation diary, which suggests that perhaps the fingerprints were taken after all. My Lord, I'm referring to C55 of the investigation diary, towards the bottom of the page. I'll wait for you to get there, Captain. That's it. And I think it's an important extract that my investigator, Brigadier Marion, has pointed out to me. It is dated 27th of May 1993, and the time entry was 1450 hours. And the entry is titled "Questioned B male," that's black male, Welile Cornelius Mashumi, Mashumi, ID number 7104205358-081, who was arrested in Indansan with regards to a hand grenade attack on Ciskine and South African police on 26th of May 1993. He can at present not be positively linked to this case, being the Highgate case. Fingerprints and palm prints of affected APLA members from KWT obtained and handed personally to Warrant Officer Moss of LCRC, in brackets, Mr. Mbekwe. And then it says, elimination report being awaited, and that's signed by Sergeant Els.
That's good.
So it does seem from that entry, Captain, that Sergeant Els took the prints from this potential suspect in order to engage in a potential, well, he wanted to generate an elimination report. He wanted to cross-reference the prints of this possible suspect with the prints that they had.
Yes.
So would you agree that in all likelihood there were prints, otherwise Sergeant Else wouldn't have wasted his time taking prints?
Yes, my lord, I agree.
Which then raises a very disturbing question as to what happened to those prints, why they are not in the docket, and ultimately what explains their absence, and that is a very serious concern. You agree?
Yes, my lord.
Have you come across something like this before?
My lord, I did once, many, many years ago, but with a lot of digging, scratching, we found it. And that's why I went back to LCRC, because I knew that the archives was quite well sorted out. I need to get a negative report back. So, yes, I have, but not to the extent where nothing is found.
No.
No, this is the first time where nothing is found.
You have that, but it was eventually resolved.
Yes, the 1 hour, yes, was resolved, but on this, nothing was recovered.
Dead end.
No, dead end.
Now, of course, we're in the dark here. We don't know what is going on and why these prints are not in the docket, and if they were potentially removed. But you do agree, particularly for the people sitting in the gallery here today, that this smacks of a potential cover-up, that potentially the prints were moved for devious or ulterior purposes.
My lord, I can understand the victim's thoughts, thinking that. I really can. But for me to say it's devious and that, I will not state that. What I do agree, that for them as victims, it is shocking. It should have been available. It should have been done, whether it was done or not. We presume it's been done. We assume it's been done, and it's disappeared. Would think definitely the same thing as what they're thinking. So I do understand their mindset and their thinking around that. But I don't want to state that it's devious. I think it's negligence, specifically of the size and the type of crime that was committed on that day.
Yes, and because of the nature of the crime, being one of the worst committed in East London's history, I'm putting it to you that this is not something that could just be overlooked or forgotten.
That's right. I fully agree, my lord.
And so while perhaps out of respect for colleagues, you don't want to make any accusations, would you agree that that possibility of there being a cover-up cannot be excluded?
My lord, I won't exclude it. If we want to be open about it and say it, we won't exclude it. But I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it did happen. But being in the victim's shoes, one would think that is what's happening here. I'm not in their shoes to think that. I've got no understanding of how they feel. I really don't, because I've never been in that position that they are. But I can just imagine the questions that are raised with things like this. And it would seem as though the word devious that you used, it's devious. And why wasn't it done? What is being hidden? One would think that, yes. For me to say that that's what the members did, I can't say that.
No, I'm not asking you to say it because we don't have the actual evidence of that. However, as you have said, given the nature of this crime, forgetting to take fingerprints is not something that would be easily overlooked. And I also put it to you, Captain, that it's not just a question of being in the shoes of the victims. I think it's being in the shoes of a reasonable person. observing what is going on.
That's correct.
What would a reasonable investigator have done in those circumstances? And it seems to me, and I hope you agree, that taking fingerprints in order to do such cross-checks as Sergeant Else attempted would have been the most basic, elementary, if not the very first important investigative step to be taken.
That's correct, my lord. I agree.
And that certainly from where we sit or where we stand, the odour of foul play, the odour of some potential manipulation in this matter has certainly come to the fore. I just want to read to you the balance of the entry at C6 to see if you have any further comment. Further photos were taken at different points. Ballistic experts will visit the scene on 3rd May 1993. It is clear that several shots were fired from different directions on the premises, stroke scene. Ballistic opinion requested in this regard. In terms of the photographs taken and the ballistic report, do you have any comment to make?
My lord, from what I found in the case docket of the photos that are available and the plan and key to plan of the incident, and that is as much as I can give evidence on that, yes.
And then to deal with the rest of C6, the witness, Edward Lombard, also known as Bayman, shot at the attackers with a .38 gun. From the interview that was conducted with him on the scene, it is possible that one of the attackers was shot. Ballistics would be able to confirm whether he was responsible for any of the deaths. Blood samples were taken at the scene to establish whose blood it is. In brackets, blood of the attacker, question mark. And with the help of different branches, intensive questioning investigation was conducted in the area. Am I right in saying that no detection of the blood of one of the attackers was picked up?
That's correct, my lord. There was blood recovered on the scene, my lord, but nothing was linked to any suspect, and neither did I get a report of the blood being linked to any one of the deceased on the reports that were in the case docket.
And then if we look at pages C35 and C36 of the investigation diary, on those pages of the diary it's recorded that certain statements are filed in the docket, and they are, I won't go through all of them, but just a few. A1, affidavit of Captain Schwartz. A2, affidavit of Michael George Kramer. A3, affidavit of Melba Jenkinson. A6, affidavit of...
Sorry, my lord. It's on C35, eh?
C35, it goes over to C36 as well.
Okay, mine starts, is that at 9:30 on the 9th of May 1993?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Mine starts that this was obtained from Carl Andrew Weber.
Yes,
Okay,
that's right.
thank you, sir. I just got confused when you spoke about Swartz, because his name is not mentioned under this group of names here.
The A1, what is yours, Captain? What's A1?
Bond doesn't, it's written here in a very large pencil writing here, A2, Carl Weber A26. But not, I don't, yeah, there's nothing written of Swartz. Yes.
Yeah. So, Brigadier Marion points out to me that there's a list here. Unfortunately, it's not in numerical order. So, in fact, it starts at A26. Looks like it goes down in numerical order down to A3.
That's correct, yes.
But what he says to me, and he points to the cover of the case docket, the state as per Captain I.R. Schwartz.
That's correct.
So that should have been on A1. His statement ought to have been A1, and we don't see it.
My lord, that is correct. I had the same question with regards to that, because when I received the docket, the result docket, there is no such statement of Captain Swart in that docket. And it's something that I've been questioning. I spoke to Bernal about it. He said to me, that docket is I received, that's what he got. And that's how he sent it to me. But I never saw any statement of Ben Swart. Although I wrote in my memorandum that A1, because that's the way that I follow my things, but there was no statement of Swartz in the docket at all. Not from what I can remember and record.
And given the suspicions that are arising from the lack of fingerprints, and given that Captain Schwartz was the investigating officer at such a crucial period of time, from 3rd May all the way through to 12th May, which is frankly, when these things should have happened, if not earlier, the fact that his statement, A1, is not there is also very worrying. Do you agree?
My Lord, I do agree. In hindsight, my Lord, we must also understand, with the docket going to the TRC, with the amount of copies that have been made of this file for the last 30 years, I'm surprised that we're only missing a couple of things, if I can put it that way. So it's possible, but it's also possible that it's got lost with all the copies that have been made. It would be very difficult for me to say that, yes, it is like that. I can't say that. I'm concerned with the amount of copies that were made, that it's been lost. Everywhere it mentions the statement was there. It wasn't in the document when I received it. That's the only thought that I have, that with all this copying it's got lost. That's the way I see it.
Well, one can understand that copying is not a precise science. Mistakes can be made. And what about the original docket? Why would A1 go missing from the original docket?
My Lord, I can't explain that. It just, with the amount of things, you've got to... I also reported to the NPA that there are certain things under A that were missing as well. I think it's from A50 to A55 that I couldn't find in the original docket. And I also questioned that. And I'm not saying that there's nothing sinister behind it, my Lord. But if one looks at the amount of copies that have been made over and over and over, we have to just keep in mind that that could also be possibly the cause of it.
Yes, it's just startling that the second investigator, who obviously was a key investigator, he was a captain compared to Foster, who was a warrant officer. And it's not just any statement, it's A1. Like that is a statement that goes missing, but it's not just Captain Swart's statement that we don't see. There's also A2, the affidavit of Michael George Kramer. That seems to be missing as well.
Oh, let's have a look at my copies here. here we go. My lord, here. I've got the copy of the front of the docket. It reappeared. Here it is, yeah. Nowhere on this front of this docket was the fingerprint number written on. And also not on the back of the investigation diary docket. So here's the copy of the front of the docket. I'm not sure if a copy has been made for you. I'm sure it is. That has also been done. That's the front of the docket. With regards to the Kramer statement has to be in there because it's mentioned in my memorandum. Just available, please.
My lord, I apologize for interjecting, but if I can just say that in the indexed statements at item 37, there is an affidavit by Michael George Kramer. There was a typed version and a handwritten version which was signed but not commissioned.
Thank you.
37.
That's right, my lord.
Is that in the bundle of affidavits? My lord, I'm advised that the index we were given doesn't go up to 37, it only goes up to 36. So in the version we had, 37 was missing, which explains why we couldn't find Kramer.
So, my lord, there's nothing sinister about that. It was just a mistake from our side. I think it was a photocopy with the index, yeah.
My lord, if I could just mention, all of these statements were sent through to our learned colleagues on the 6th of September 2022. What? 4, sorry, 2024. And this morning I did indicate to them that unfortunately I had not indexed and paginated. There were certain ones which were in the bundle but not indexed and paginated, and I handed that to them this morning.
Kramer statement accompanied that.
That is correct.
Well, yeah, well. He just read to you this morning, so obviously. I don't know much time you had to look at it.
Well, we were going through it over lunch. We didn't get through everything.
Yeah.
So, my lord, it may be that the other affidavits are also lurking in there, namely the affidavit of Melva Jenkinson at A3. I think that is in there. I think I do recall seeing it, skipping through it over lunch. As well as A5, the affidavit of Kaliswa Constance August, and the affidavit of Edward Lombard. We'll just do a double check on those, and if they are missing, we'll bring it to the court's attention.
Very well.
Captain, in your evidence in chief, if my memory serves me correctly, you mentioned the warrants of arrest let me put this to you. There were warrants of arrest authorised for Lungisa Ntitile, Tembali Ngundu, that's at C61, Olila Ngabane, and Dumila Nonchweni at C63. There's no indication in the investigation diary as to whether those warrants were executed. Do you know whether, in fact, the warrants were executed or not?
My Lord, in what I found in the case docket at the time, I did not see that those warrants were executed. Yeah, I never found it in the docket either.
Is it correct, Captain, that in your evidence in chief you made reference to A50 to A55 as being missing?
If I can remember correctly, yes, I did mention that there's certain, I think it's A50 to A55, could be standing under correction. I'll just have to check my memorandum. I thought I had a copy of my own memorandum with me, but I don't have it with me.
So it's if I can refer you to C63 of the investigation diary, there's an entry at 14th of June 1993 at 1455.
That's correct.
There's a statement of Lieutenant Colonel W.J. De Lange, received and filed under A-clip, warrants of arrest in respect of Molila Mwabane and Domisila Nontokoeni, received and filed under A-clip. And I think my investigator, Brigadier Marion, is suggesting that these are filed under A51, 52 and 53 and that they are missing.
That's, I agree, my Lord, that is what's written here.
Captain, did you have any contact with police officers, Sergeant Ritter and Warrant Officer Roos?
I did have nothing to do with them, my Lord. I do know that Sergeant Ritter was a captain. Just before I joined the DPCI, he resigned, and Captain Roos is now a colonel. I'm not sure if he's still active. I know that, according to what I understand, he was close to his retirement, but I have knowledge of both officers.
My Lord, I see it's 4 p.m. I just want to check if I can pursue questions on these two, whether you would prefer to adjourn until the morning.
Yes, Mr. Malik, I think let's take the adjournment.
My Lord, I understand that the NBA wished to show a short video of the scene before we departed, and then to explain about the inspection in the morning.
Okay, so it would have to be done afterwards. We said it's up to happen.
My Lord, perhaps it would be better to finish the evidence of Captain Peterson before we proceed with the inspection and referral.
Yes. I'm going to take the adjournment. We will reconvene tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
For the